Hello everybody, my name is Rachel. Welcome to my channel, Kalanati. Today I am back finally with another revisiting anticipated releases videos. I really enjoy doing these, and for some reason I always forget to do them in a timely fashion once I've read a majority of the books. So if you don't know what this is, I put out quarterly videos on releases that I'm really looking forward to, the books that I'm most excited about, and about a year later I usually come back and revisit that list and let you know what I've read, what I haven't read, and why, and if I have read it, like, did I enjoy it? Did it live up to my expectations? I think the last time I did one of these was back in April, which was a literal lifetime ago. So today I'm going to be revisiting my anticipated releases from January, February, and March of 2019, which means that these are things that came out a year and a half to 2 years ago now, which just blows my mind a little bit. So without any further preamble, let's get into it. This list contains a bunch of things I've read, some things I've purposely skipped, and a couple of like DNFs and stuff, so it's pretty mixed bag actually. So let's begin with one that I wish that I had a copy of, Alliance Rising by C.J. Cherryh and Jane S. Fancher. This was the first Alliance Union novel to be published in many years, and I was really looking forward to it at the time because I had been reading a bunch of the much older books in that universe prior to this one coming out. So I was reading things that were published like 20, 30 years ago and was about to get to one that had just been published. I was very excited and hoping that it would, I don't know, kind of be an improvement in some ways with the way it handled certain issues, especially like mental health and medical issues. And you know what? I really enjoyed this. Like, I got super into it in a way that I hadn't expected. And it was part one. This surprised me so much because most of Cherryh's novels are standalones or have a pretty definite ending, even if there is a sequel. And especially like in the Alliance Union universe. So I did not expect this to be part one. It's a bit of a cliffhanger ending and I want part two so much. I don't think it's been announced yet, but if it has, please let me know because I thoroughly enjoyed this and I probably need to buy a copy of it because I might have to reread it by the time that part two comes around. As I recall, I've never been so fascinated by lengthy explanations of trade and commerce routes and how that could upend, you know, the political situation in the universe. Like, it was really interesting. So yeah, started off with a bang. Next up is Dragon Pearl by Yoon Lee. I was really looking forward to this because I have enjoyed the Machineries of Empire series by Yoon Lee so much. And this was his first middle grade fantasy novel, kind of a blend of fantasy and science fiction actually, which I do enjoy. Unfortunately, this book was not my favorite thing. I actually thought the second half of it was pretty interesting. Like, I got pretty invested in it. I thought the ending was good, but it failed for me pretty fundamentally because I didn't like the main character. Min is like 12 or 13 years old, and this quest to go find out what happened to her brother, it came across as very selfish, and I thought she was intentionally making decisions that she knew was going to hurt other people, and it soured a lot of the story for me. Perhaps I'm just having a strange reaction to the character, but it was an interesting world and a character journey that I wasn't really into, unfortunately. Reading this taught me that I think I mostly enjoy Lee's adult fiction. In many ways, the world of Dragon Pearl felt like an aged down version of the Machineries of Empire series, like that possible blend of magic with science fiction, though there's more overt magic in Dragon Pearl. It reminded me a lot of the world building in his other books that I really enjoyed, but I prefer the more adult version with like soap opera drama more. Continuing on, The Golden Tresses of the Dead by Alan Bradley. This is the 10th Flavia de Luce mystery novel. This is a series about a 12-year-old girl in 1950s England who is super into chemistry, poisons, and investigating murders and dead bodies and stuff. I have loved this series, though I definitely think that the first half of the series, like the first 5, maybe 6 books, are the best. I continue reading it because the second half, kind of maybe conclusion of the series, has really focused more on the relationship between Dogger and Flavia, and I'm really invested in that relationship. But I will admit that I have very little memory of this particular book. All I remember is that there was a lot of Dogger in it and that I liked that. Now, I read this as like the final book because for a long time this series had been projected to be 10 books. However, I think that Bradley has actually said that he'll continue writing the books as he feels like it, so it might not be the end. But, you know, about 2 years later, I don't think that an 11th one has been announced yet. Though once again, if it has, I need to know. You may know that I am a huge fan of Ann Leckie, specifically for her Imperial Ratch series, as well as for Provenance in the same universe. I really love her science fiction, and I was very excited when her debut fantasy novel, The Raven Tower, was announced. I got it right away, and then I read it and had a very mixed reaction to it. And actually this is the first of a couple of books in this batch that I was planning on doing a full review of, and for various reasons that didn't happen. This book is complicated. There's so much happening in this. The story of like the relationship between gods and humans and how power and magic works in this world. I had a really good time figuring out what was happening, figuring out who the narrator was and how the various gods and other characters in the stories were all interacting. Like, there are multiple mysteries in this, and I had a really good time tracking all the little details and trying to figure it out. Unfortunately, I felt incredibly disconnected from the story and from the action and the characters. It was interesting on like this intellectual level to kind of figure out the puzzle, but it's told in second person, it's directed at you. And I respect Leckie very much as an author, and I expect that she chose to write the story with that particular voice for a reason. Like, she's writing it to you for a reason. I'm not sure I really understood why, though. I felt like that use of second person kept all of the characters, especially one of the main characters, at arm's length for the entire book, and that was really frustrating. It was a good mental exercise, but hasn't really stuck with me since then. Next up is an anthology, Broken Stars, Contemporary Chinese Science Fiction in Translation. This is edited and translated by Ken Liu. I love Ken Liu as a translator. At this point, I've read more stories that he's translated than stories that he's written himself. So this is the second anthology from Ken Liu, bringing together translated Chinese SFF, and I enjoyed it. I actually remember more of the like nonfiction essays from this more for some reason. I think there was an essay on like the history of Chinese SFF that put a lot of the stuff into context for me, and I really liked reading that. I think it was originally published in Mythila Review. But anyway, I think my overall memory from this anthology is that it was good. The translation was good. There were some stories I really liked. There were some stories I really didn't like. Most of the ones I didn't like I already knew because I had tried reading them in Clark's World in previous years. So I pretty much got what I expected from this one, and I really liked the essays that were also included, and I want more. I really hope there's going to be like a third installment in this anthology series, if you want to call it that, because it really makes Chinese SFF more accessible. And I think that Ken Liu in particular is such a good translator who goes that extra step to making the stories even more accessible in the translation and then the notes and stuff, and I really like that. Next up is The Haunting of Tramcar 15 by P. Djeli Clark. I loved this novella. One of the rare things I've requested a review copy of so I could read it in advance. I haven't done that in a while. As you can see, because I tabbed it up, I actually did do a standalone review of this, so I will link that for for you guys. I loved this, and I'm pretty sure it was on my favorite reads of 2019 list, and I want more from this universe. This is his alternate history Cairo universe, kind of steampunky, and I love it. And I understand there's going to be a novel set in this universe coming out in 2021, and I need it. I need it so badly. Another book that I read, enjoyed, and planned on doing a review for, and just that didn't happen, is Ancestral Night by Elizabeth Bear. I loved this book. I loved reading it. As you can tell, I took notes, I tabbed things up, I was gonna do a review, and just didn't happen for various reasons. This was another of my favorite books of 2019, and I'm getting ready to read the companion novel, Machine, very soon. So yeah, I have very fond memories of this book, and I would most highly recommend it for kind of the mystery. Like, I love mystery plots in science fiction. This is not surprising. But there's also a really big like identity and mental health aspect of the story, which I thought was really important and well done and not predictable. So yes, I very highly recommend this one, and I hope that the next book is just as good. Next up is a slew of books from this list that I haven't read for various reasons. The True Queen by Zen Cho. I keep meaning to read this, and I've gotten it out from the library a couple of times and still haven't read it. It will happen someday though, because I still really, really want to read it. I'm very interested in Zen Cho and like everything that she's written. Then there is Luna Moon Rising by Ian McDonald. This is the conclusion to the Luna series, which is originally pitched as like Godfather on the Moon. This book I'm probably not gonna read, just gotta be upfront about that. I loved the first book, and then the second book, New Moon? I can't remember what the title of that one was a big disappointment for me. Like, it wasn't a terrible book, it just did not hit the same high points as the first one, and I kind of lost interest in the series after that. So Moon Rising, maybe I'll get to this one at some point, but it is not a high priority for me, and I'm not going to promise that I'm going to finish that series. Then there is The Return of the Thief by Megan Whalen Turner, the final book in the Queen's Thief series. This book was delayed by over a year. It actually only came out in 2020, I think in like September or October. So I will read it, but I haven't got to it because it was delayed. And then there was a DNF, The Light Brigade by Kameron Hurley. This is the point at which I realized that maybe Kameron Hurley's novels weren't for me anymore, just a little bit too brutal for my taste. I've enjoyed a lot of her short fiction in recent years, less so her novels. So I tried listening to The Light Brigade on audiobook, and it, like an hour into it, I felt so deeply upset, I just DNF'd it. And it could have been how I was feeling at the time. It could be the book, I don't know. I occasionally think of coming back and trying it again because I've heard really good things about it from people who have read it, but sometimes you just gotta admit that certain things aren't for you. Then there is Miranda and Milan by Katharine Duckett. This is a novella that I have read, and it's perhaps best described or most easily described as a queering of Shakespeare. It's based on The Tempest, of course, by Shakespeare, but picks up after those events and follows Miranda as she has returned home and kind of learning what happened to her mother. And I enjoyed it. It was a really good story, but one that I have not felt compelled to revisit. I think I actually got rid of my copy this past year. I would still love to read more things by Katharine Duckett though. I think this was very well written, and I would definitely recommend it for people who are fans of Shakespeare and kind of queer fantasy. Second to last on this list is Tiamat's Wrath by James S.A. Corey. I have read this. It is the 8th and penultimate in the Expanse series, and I listen to all of these on audiobook, which is kind of weird for me, but I love the audiobook versions and they're always quite easy to follow. And this was one of my favorite books in the entire series. I mean, I can't think of any other series off the top of my head that's been this long running. You know, it's going to be 9 books when it's over with, and it's still good. Like, some of the absolute best books in this series have been in the second half. And it keeps surprising me with like how good the books are. So, I mean, I can't say much about what it's about because it's the 8th book. Come on, like it's building up to the final events. And I loved it. I loved all of the viewpoint characters. I was invested in all the characters, and I just got this sense of how much things have changed, you know, how much character development there's been over the decades with the core cast. It has this rich cast of secondary characters as well. It's still introducing new characters at this point, and it's still doing such a good job with them. And just so many events have built up. It's great. And I'm pretty much in awe of how the authors have managed this, how they've balanced it. And I really hope that they pull off a dramatic and strong conclusion with the 9th book. And the last book on this particular list of anticipated releases was A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine. And you guys know I love this. It was pretty much my absolute favorite book of 2019, and it is one that I did do a proper review of, so I will link that for you if you want to know my full thoughts on this book. I think it is still one of my favorite review videos I've ever done. Definitely one of my best videos of 2019. Sometimes all the stars align and you just make that one video you're really proud of. So yes, I adored this book. This book is everything I want out of a science fiction novel, and I loved it. I love the characters, I love the story, I love the world building, everything about language and communication and memory and how empires function. It was amazing. I loved it. And that is it. Those are all of the releases from January, February, and March of 2019 that I was most looking forward to. And like I said, it's a bit of a mixed bag, but I have this overwhelming memory of enjoying reading most of these, and they were worth getting to. So that is good. Hopefully I will do another installment of this series soon. Give me a little bit of a kick in the pants to finish reading a couple of things from 2019. But yeah, revisiting these always makes me excited, and I get to talk about things that I haven't mentioned in a little bit. So let me know if you have also read any of these and what you thought about them. Leave me a comment down below. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll be back soon to talk to you again. And until then, bye.